So in America, we have $1 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, you know, like many bills like you do in Thai. Good morning. But in the coins, we have a penny, and a penny is just 1 cent. So it takes 100 pennies. Takes 100 pennies to make $1 in America. Okay? It takes 10 dimes to make $1. Okay? We also have what we call nickels. Nickels. And nickels is equals 5 pennies. So it takes 20 nickels to make $1. Okay? Because if we divide 5 into 100, we get 20. So, and we also have quarters. And quarters, yes, 25 cents. And a quarter is 25 cents, so it takes 4 quarters to make $1. Okay? So a dime in America money, a dime isn't very much money. A dime is like about 1/3 of a baht. You know, it's just not much money. You know. Well, no. See, a dime would be 30 bahts. 1 baht in Thai is 1 baht equals 1 quarter plus 1 nickel. If you had 1 quarter and 1 nickel in American currency, you'd have 1 baht. Okay? Because one baht is about 30 cents to the US dollar. Okay? It's worth about, 1 baht is worth about 30 cents.
Even now, they still use penny.
Uh-huh.
You guys still have penny.
Right.
Only 1 cent.
Well, a penny is just one cent.
You still use that? Is it they still have? No? 1 cent.
Well, yeah, you can use it.
Now you can use penny.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, if you buy something in America, let's say I want to buy a new shirt, and it costs $11.23. Okay, my new shirt. So I would have to take out 11 bills. I could take out 1 $10 bill. I could take out 1 $1 bill, but then I'd have to pay 23 cents. So I would need 2 dimes and 3 pennies. 2 dimes. Because 2 dimes would be 20 cents and 3 pennies would be 3 cents. So I would give the clerk at the store a $10 bill, a $1 bill, 2 dimes, and 3 pennies. Okay? So, back to our idiom of the day. An idiom, or the dime, is like, it's not, by itself, it's not very much money. There's not too many things you can buy with just 1 dime. You know? So, if we say that something is a dime a dozen, we're saying that we can buy 12 things for only 1 dime, which means that it's not very valuable. it would be very ordinary, very common.
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning. Good morning. So if I said you're visiting America with me, and we go to a souvenir store, and you see something that you'd like to buy, and the store wants $5 for it, I would say to you, oh, that's too much. Those are just a dime a dozen. It means that those are very ordinary. You shouldn't have to pay that much. Okay? It's very common, very ordinary. It's not worth much. A dime a dozen. Okay?
This means that small money can buy a thing, right?
If what?
Small money can buy a lot of things.
Yeah. A dime a dozen. A dime a dozen means that a small amount of money could buy a great quantity of whatever it is. So, if we say something is a dime a dozen, we're saying that it's not very valuable. You know
So
that
that thing is good or not?
well, it would mean it wouldn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's easily available. It's easy to get. It's not worth very much money. So I'm trying to think of something in the Thai economy that would be a dime a dozen. What can I buy if I go down the street? What can I buy for only 1 baht? Is there anything I can buy for only 1 baht?
No. เก่งปัง2 บาทเลย
Is there anything I can buy for 2 baht? 2 baht. What could I buy for 2 baht?
Water, ice and water.
I and you banana.
Okay. So if we're walking down the street together and I see someone selling like a market a little piece of fruit, and I say, oh, I want that, you know, and I take out and I'm getting ready to spend, you know, maybe 20 baht for that. You would say, oh, no, don't. Those are, you know, 1 baht a dozen. You know, those are easily affordable. We don't have to pay very much money for those. That's what a dime a dozen means. You're not getting it, are you? Yeah. So
we should do this.
Huh?
We should do this so small money can buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is good or not?
Well, if we say a dime a dozen, what we're saying is that it's not very expensive. It's not expensive. It's cheap.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
So that is a good one. That is good or not?
Well, I mean, if something's cheap, then if you want it and it's cheap, that's a good thing. But if it's cheap because you don't need it, then, you know, that's a different thing. All we're saying is that when we say something is a dime a dozen, we're saying that it's very cheap. You know?
How it go to idiom? How it go to idiom?
How would I use it in speech, you mean? Okay. If
More than you spend.
pardon me?
Much more than you spend. No.
It's, well, you don't have to, if we say that something is a dime a dozen, we're saying that we don't have to spend very much money for it. It's cheap, that it's very common. It's very common.
More valuable.
So, let me think of a better example. Yeah, I was going to show you a picture. If you go to the beach, okay, and at the beach you'll see little seashells, you know, from mussels and scallops and so on. So And if you go to a souvenir store and you buy a sack of seashells, they're not very expensive, you know. They're cheap because they're a dime a dozen. They're very available. They're very common. They're not hard to find. So, you know, at the beach, you would, you know, a seashell would be a dime a dozen. A dime a dozen. Just very common. Very common. Now, if you saw a certain type of seashell, say a large, you know, good morning. If you saw a seashell like one of those big, large seashells that you could, like, you know, make a horn out of, yeah, they're called conchs. Yeah, very beautiful. But those would not be a dime a dozen. Those would be expensive because they're not common. But a little scallop shell, a little, you know, shell made from mussels or scallops, those are very available. They're very common at the beach. So we'd say they're a dime a dozen. A dime a dozen. Okay? Okay.
I think Thai product and also Thai product many product in Thailand.
Oh yeah. Well, you know the little plastic ones that you buy, that you see at the souvenir store, they're like made out of plastic and they're small. Those are a dime a dozen.